Hello and welcome to a Talmud Israeli production. Today we'll review the highlights of this week's course of Daf Yomi study, Masechet Bava Batra, pages 40 through 46. 40, man. Amar Rav Yehuda. Hai matnata tamirta lo magvir. We do not allow collection from a document concerning a gift which was given in secret. So what's an example of a gift given in secret? The Amar Lahu Sahadi, where the giver tells witnesses, Zilu Atmiro v'katvole, go and conceal yourselves, hide from the public, and prepare this gift document for execution. Now, why do we not collect from this? Because there is an element of underhandedness and dishonesty here that it's quite possible this item that is being gifted from person A to person B is actually an item that is involved in legitimate above-board transaction between person A and person C. But person A is bamboozling person C and possibly taking money illegitimately and then shifting ownership of the item in question to person B without anyone else knowing. So because of this secret, the secret of nature, we do not allow collection on the basis of that gift document. 41. Kol chazaka she'ini matana ain't a chazaka. Any chazaka where there has been occupancy of a piece of land or of an item for an extended period of time, for 3 years, is not going to count as a valid chazaka, halachic presumption, unless it comes along with some kind of a claim, a verbal claim that justifies why this item is in this person's possession. Ketzad. If one guy who was an original owner says to somebody else, "What are you doing with my stuff or on my property?" and the occupant really has nothing good to say. No one ever told me. I didn't know. Blah blah blah. Nothing compelling. Then in a chazaka. The absence of a compelling claim means there's no chazaka. However, if he says you sold it to me or you gave it to me as a gift, your father sold it to me, or your father gave it to me as a gift, those are legitimate claims. It could very well be true. And if you combine that with the occupancy for 3 years, we say this is a valid chazaka. However, if someone came to inherit something from the deceased person's estate, father dies, the son gets the estate, and the estate had possession of this parcel on the basis of a chazaka, then the heir need not accompany that occupancy of 3 years with some verbal claim. Had it been his dead father who was being addressed, that father would have had to have a ta'ana, a claim. But the son, it's not necessary. We don't impose that upon heirs. Membet 42. Ha'umanin, the craftsmen, Vashutvin, partners, Ha'arisin, the sharecroppers, Potropsin, or the administrators of an estate, Elam Chazaka, they are not able to claim that something is owned by them on the basis of occupancy of 3 years or possession of 3 years. Why? Because it's very often the case that they have control over somebody else's stuff. There's a legitimate reason why it's in their hands, not because they own it, but because they were instructed to either work on the item or oversee the item, but not that it's actually theirs. A husband can't claim a chazaka over his wife's property and not a wife over a husband's property because it's basically common, it's shared. Yes, there's an actual owner, but the other party holds on to it temporarily. Nor the father and son or a son and father, because in the family it's not surprising that somebody would have access to someone else's possessions. Mem Gimel 43. Hakol etzel sefer Torah aniyim heim. Everyone is poor when it comes to a Torah scroll. Now, what does that mean? It means that Jews need to have Torah scrolls. Jewish community in the synagogue has to have a Torah scroll. Ideally, every adult Jew would have a Torah scroll. It's a mitzvah, the last mitzvah of the Torah. And if you don't have one, you are religiously impoverished and you need to do something about it. So, therefore, when it comes to referring to someone as an ani, as a poor person, at least with regard to religious instruction and religious life, if they don't have a Sefer Torah, they are regarded as aniyim. Okay. Memdal 44. If you sell a field to your fellow without any achrut responsibility, meaning if a creditor comes and seizes the property from the buyer, the seller has no responsibility to make amends. Ein made aleh b'ishma'amida b'fnei bal chovo. This seller cannot testify on behalf of the buyer if there's any protestation about the buyer's ownership of the field, because by confirming that the buyer is the true owner in the face of any protest from the outside, this makes the field available for the creditors of the seller to come and collect. So, in other words, the seller has a financial interest, a personal interest in confirming the ownership for the buyer, and when you have vested interest in your testimony is invalid. Memhe 45. Anoten talitola uman. If you give your talis, your article of clothing, to a professional to fix, uman omer shtayim katzatztali, and the tailor says, we made a deal, you'd pay me $2 for this. Halomer lo katzatzi le'achat, and the owner of the garment says, no, the deal was for $1 to fix it. Tells about uman, so long as the item in question is in the hands of the craftsman, then the owner of the item has to bring proof that his assertion about what the cost was is accurate. Not the lobismano, nishbavanotel. If the item was returned, if the item was paid for at the right time, then there is an oath, and the owner of the item gets his item back. Avar zmano hamotzi mechaver lavaraya. However, if the time has passed, then the burden of proof is on the uman, on the craftsman, to prove that his claim about $2 is accurate, and otherwise the owner doesn't have to pay the $2. Memvav 46. Tanurabar. What happens if you give clothing to the launderer, to the tailor, and you get back somebody else's stuff? It's not yours. The person who was the customer who got something that wasn't really his is allowed to use the item that isn't really his until such time as the other fellow comes along and tries to rectify the problem and return everything to the right person. However, if you end up taking somebody else's coat or umbrella or whatever it might be, after leaving a shiva house, a beis avil, a house of mourning, or a beis hamishta, or a wedding, you should not use the item that you picked up that you thought was yours, it turns out wasn't yours. Rather, wait until an exchange can be made and everyone gets back what really belongs to them. Everyone have a great week.